is like what is the reason behind yaoi hands?
Why are you recording? Like,
Because
this
I
is how you want to
can.
start the episode?
Yeah.
No, I honestly don't know. I feel like it's one of those things, where they just went, oh, what should be the trend for this particular moment in time? And they were like, horrible anatomy.
Oh my god, we
That's
can
what
have a
we
whole
want.
other episode on like
Oh,
bad yaoi anatomy. Like my favorite is like feet. Like feet that just like are in a different room.
and that's why they have the yaoi beds, Have you seen yaoi
I've seen
beds?
some
They're
very
so
sketchy
big.
yaoi beds.
It's like, this bed is bigger than my house.
I've seen some very sketchy yaoi beds, like some very my favorite, and this comes back to like being Catholic, like some of the confessionals. It's like, what pompous ass church are you in that you can fit 3 people in a confessional? What kind of grant from the Pope gave y'all a confessional that you can fit a whole fucking field of demons inside to have sex in?
That was the Pope himself. Just, cashed out for that one.
Okay, so there actually was a pope back in ye olden days. He was one of the bad popes. Um, and he had this thing in the Vatican called the Joust of Whores, where he paid prostitutes to slither on the Vatican ground naked and picking up walnuts with their labia.
Okay, processing. Yes, go on. I'm like, what? What?
Because every part of that sentence is like something in and of itself.
Yeah,
But
it is
then
like,
together,
okay.
those are things that Catholic school doesn't teach you, but I think is far more interesting. But yeah, there was a pope that did that. Like, there was also a pope who had so much anal sex that like he was horribly ulcerated and couldn't sit down during his like pope coronation. He had to take it while laying on his stomach.
What? Is that allowed? Are they allowed to do that?
No, they
No, okay.
hold on. Checks
Ask,
notes. They are
asking for
not allowed
another.
to do that.
I don't know. I'm not religious. I'm a heathen. I have to ask these questions. It's
Yeah, can't confirm. One moment. Checks notes. Not allowed to
okay.
have so much gay sex that you can't sit.
I think, whether you're a pope or not, I just don't think that's doesn't sound great either way, to
I
be
mean, it's not,
honest.
but also like not great for like literally the Pope who's supposed to be celibate
No, no.
and not supposed to do the sodomy.
I mean, I don't know a lot about the Catholic Church, but I think that might be a deal breaker.
Again,
Possibly.
yeah, checks notes. Yeah, it is. It's not.
Oh
It's not
no.
great. We could have a whole other podcast on the bad popes because honestly, it's one of my favorite things in Catholicism, which leads us to psychological abuse as a
Woo!
BL trope. Welcome to the Yaoi Shelf. Grab a seat and
Welcome.
relax. Uh,
Or, grab your comfort stuffed animal, because
do you have a comfort stuffed animal?
I have plenty.
Oh, well,
I have
that's
a whole,
lovely.
have a whole couch. Also, Sansa's here, so
Sansa's here.
he's here.
So, yeah, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Yaoi Shelf. Glad to have you here. Uh, I'm excited to talk about psychological abuse as a trope because it's one of those weird things that I feel like has existed in BL for a very, very long time.
Mm.
And we're just now starting to kind of hear it talked about more as a less than positive thing because the children have lots to say about things that are problematic, but they haven't gone far enough back to actually like really penetrate the topic. What?
True. No,
Oh, I
I'm
did
just
a
being
thing. Sorry.
childish. I'm childish. I'm sorry.
I did a thing. Sorry. But that honestly, I'm not sure if that was intentional or not.
Don't lie to me.
I don't think it was.
Okay. Sure.
That
Sure?
that was a very stern "don't lie to me." That was such a stern "don't lie to me."
I mean,
So,
the Pope wouldn't approve.
I mean, there's a lot of things that the Pope wouldn't approve of. Let's be very realistic. Uh, I mean, unless it's one of those party popes that, is having, horror parties and stuff.
Happens. Yeah.
Oh my god, can I be the horror party Yaoi Pope? That sounds amazing.
There's this week's sticker.
Don't
Horror
fucking
party Yaoi Pope. No, you need to make it now.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll write myself a note. Okay. So, my name is Amanda, if you're new to the show. My lovely co-host is Carola. Say hi to the nice people.
Hello, nice people.
Sansa the cat is here, and he has the best cat bed that I've ever seen.
It's really nice.
It's a shark, and it looks like he's being eaten, and it's honestly one of the greatest sources of serotonin I've had in a very long time. So, we're here to talk about psychological abuse as a BL trope, which means, Carola, would you like to give the nice people at home a friendly little trigger warning?
Okay. Should I read the wonderful trigger warning that you wrote?
You know what? Yeah, and feel free to add anything that you think is necessary, though I think I was pretty thorough.
I think it's wonderful. I'm just going to read it because it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Trigger warning. We are not doctors. We just play ones on TV or, stream or podcast, wherever you're listening. And we're not here to diagnose or treat anyone's trauma. We're also not here to belittle anyone's trauma. We're two sadists. Your words, not mine.
Where why?
With jokes, but entirely do see the validity and importance of psychological abuse and trauma. And of course, a mandatory disclaimer, we are talking about fiction. So we are not talking about real life.
Yes, I hate that we have to say that, but the children, for some reason, have forgotten that fictional characters aren't real.
I don't even know what's going on anymore.
If I see one more person go to, the fucking mat over Deku, I'm gonna fight someone.
Oh my god.
I'm honestly gonna fight someone. It's like, I can't believe that all of you ignored Deku's trauma. It's like, he's not real.
But we're not ignoring anyone's trauma.
And no one's ignoring it. And also, him and Kachan are literally married, so someone has forgiven someone.
I was catching up with the anime literally last night because I was 6 episodes behind, and I was dying the whole time because he's like, oh, I can finally talk with Kachan like a normal person, and I was dying the whole time. It's fantastic. I love it. I love them. Sorry, okay, carry on.
You have this I'm trying to find the thread with the children that you have adopted, and I'm having a semi-hard time with it.
I know! It's
I've noticed some commonalities, but for the most part, it feels like Krampus, where you're just out with a basket yanking up random children.
You're not wrong. I was literally thinking about this yesterday. I was like, because we were watching Hero Academia, and I'm over here like, how is it that my one favorite character is Bakugo and then my other favorite character is Tamaki?
Those are not the same character at all.
There's literally nothing.
There is nothing. And I think about this kind of stuff because I know just about my hero to be dangerous. I know just enough about it to be truly dangerous. I can catch most of the references. I know what most people are talking about. I know most of the characters, mostly because of pornography. But
it happens.
It does. But I was like, there is nothing that bridges these two. Because, at least if you look at, my sons or my hero, there's only one that's probably a little bit abhorrent. But if you know anything about me, you'd understand why he's still my kid, which is Tenya, because he's perfect, and I love him.
I love him. He's wonderful.
He's perfect, and I love him. And, I don't know. I guess Bakugo goes in the box of angry blonde sons with Satan.
Which Satan? Wait.
Devilman Crybaby.
Oh, yeah,
and technically, Russian Yuri from Yuri on Ice.
Oh, I love you, my child. Yes.
Yeah, so there's a box of blonde angry children that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a box of blonde angry men that are my gender. And then there's a box of cinnamon rolls. Shut up. And then there's a box of cinnamon rolls that have to be kept away from the other boxes.
Because they have anxiety.
Mostly just because I don't want them to get hurt. Looking at the box of anger, there's literally Satan in there.
I know, but there literally was an episode this season where Bakugo blew up Tamaki with a bomb. I was like, no, not my child. It was traumatic.
I would imagine. I think
which is why we're here today. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, but I think everything is traumatic for Tamaki if I understand his character correctly.
Poor baby, but I love him. He's everything to me. And
he does remind me of like those like shelter cats who like aren't used to anything and just sort of like flop over because they just don't.
But he's like
no.
He would play dead, you know. If he could just lay down, he would.
Just, we've talked too much about My Hero Academia.
Okay, so it's the Hero Academia shelf.
No! Sorry.
By accident.
No, I apologize. Didn't mean to trigger you, but like, it's terrible. Okay, so what constitutes psychological abuse? Let's establish some common forms that are from the trope. This is loosely researched from the DSM-5. Again, we are not doctors. Please do not use this to diagnose yourself or others. Please. That is a huge issue on the internet. We are not doctors, but I am still a better therapist than Kurose.
I suppose.
I've yet to dick down someone who needed help.
But
ma'am.
I don't even have a response. I'm just like,
right.
But he's so beautiful.
I mean, he's a very pretty man.
He is
so,
a pretty man.
There are a few ways that psychological abuse shows up, especially in fiction. Gaslighting, I think, is the one that you see most common, which is basically lying to someone to make it sound like something did not happen. It is an old movie reference that really no one cares about. It's also a term that gets thrown around a lot in places that people don't actually know what the term means. Do you want to talk a little more about gaslighting? Because that little head turn told me that you have an opinion.
I don't know. It wasn't so much about gaslighting, but I feel like there are two terms that people really don't understand. So there's the gaslighting, which, is the whole, I mean, someone, because that's literally what it means, like you keep turning down the gas, you keep turning down the lights, and then you're like, and then, your partner's like, did it get darker in here? And they're like, no.
Right.
Because, you're making them think that they're crazy. You're making them think that they're imagining things. And,
Correct.
Gaslighting yourself into thinking that, oh, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe I was at fault, But then there's a bridge from that to the term toxic, which I also feel like people don't understand because,
No, they don't.
Someone, I feel like, if you had one bad experience with someone, that doesn't constitute them as being toxic. Like, had an argument. That's not toxicity. That's something completely different.
Absolutely. And I really do value useful tangent. Because you see that a lot in like current BL discourse, is that like something that's very, very benign is labeled as toxic.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is nothing. This might not be great, but like, what idyllic, perfect relationship are you looking for? So I really very much appreciate you going into that. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of those things that constitutes a toxic relationship versus people have arguments sometimes.
Believe it or not,
it does.
It's a thing.
Right. There is also an ugly sister of gaslighting called lampshading, where you take focus and put it on one other thing. So it's, instead of talking about the bigger issue at hand, we're going to hyper focus on one thing. In psychology and in psychological circles, it usually is like lampshading something that is out of someone's control, like your looks or something like that. So it's casting away from bigger issue and blaming it on something else. Common lampshade is like, appearance or lack of sex or sexual knowledge. It kind of leads into the whole, I wouldn't have hit you if, which is not how abuse works.
I'm just I'm fine.
Are you fine?
No.
Another big one that we see, especially in BL, is emotional manipulation and
Oh yeah.
martyrdom, where it's I hate that the only big example that comes to mind for me is the
I know.
Hunchback in Notre Dame.
Why?
How did you know?
No, I didn't know. I thought you
Oh.
were going to talk about Toma.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, because he did
He's
nothing wrong, right?
no, he's I don't know. See, that's why it didn't come to mind. I would never have accused him.
You would never.
I would I would never
We're-
have accused.
We're gonna have a talk about this next month. We're gonna
We are.
I'm gonna
Spoilers.
take you down.
Spoilers for next one. You're right. I would never have thought about him because he's never done that.
He is literally my go-to person. Like, but yeah, no. Yeah.
So mine is always Hunchback
Manipulation.
in Notre Dame with Quasimodo and Frodo.
But it makes sense because Frodo is Frodo. I'm sorry.
Frollo. Sorry.
Frollo. Yeah.
I said I was wrong. I was the bad literature person for a moment.
I don't even know. I don't know who made this mistake.
I think it was me. It doesn't matter.
I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
like that one is the one that always comes to mind for me because you have this whole relationship between Quasimodo and Frollo that's like awful and built on manipulation and stuff like that. And there's a lot of martyrdom to it as well, where it's like, oh, I took you in when no one else would, and it's like that's not. But you caused the problem to happen, sir. But you'll see a lot of that and a lot of BL.
Yeah.
Isolation is another like really really unfortunate tool that you'll see, which basically is when your seme like separates one partner from the other, from like the other's family and support groups, which is really really hard to deal with, and it's just really really sad. It's sad to watch because especially the way it's done is so many it's usually perpetrated to ukes, but so many of the times, you know, it's just sort of you can see them wither away. Like you can see them like no longer being themselves and stuff. And that's frustrating and sad. Like it's just yeah, it's like watching a flower in a vase just curl up and die.
Yeah.
When it's
Essentially. Except they, you know, sometimes in the very extreme cases, you know,
Mhm.
you'll have, I mean, two of the first things that come to mind, you know, I was thinking of Okanaganai,
Mhm.
and also, I don't know, because, you know, shoot me, but I'm not, you know, I don't really, I don't really have a relationship with Aino Kusabi, but, you know, he's chained up. You know, you
Oh,
have a lot of
man.
these situations where they are literally not only isolated, they are also physically restrained and
True.
forced to be in this room or this apartment or this,
True.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, there are some that definitely. I mean, Stockholm syndrome isn't real. It was made up entirely. It's not real. It's also like really, really hard to prove and almost impossible to diagnose in others based upon like an interaction.
Very, very prominent in fiction, though.
It is,
Yeah.
but also oftentimes used to like take away characters' agencies because sometimes, like, yeah, you just trauma bond with someone to death. That happens.
Unfortunately.
Like, it's not good, but like that happens. Sometimes you just like, you know, we were talking about us and our trauma a little bit in private, and like trauma bonding is something that I'm still coming to terms with because I trauma bond to things like you wouldn't imagine, because I'm a survivor of psychological and emotional abuse as a child. So I will trauma bond to things very very quickly, oftentimes inanimate objects, because I see a part of myself in them. There's a famous story about Nietzsche where he trauma bonded with a horse that was being whipped because it couldn't work anymore, and he threw his arms around the horse and said, "I understand you." Um, and like that's something that always really struck me. Also, because Nietzsche was a cuck that gave us the Nazi Party, so
Oh,
he was.
I'm just yeah. I've blocked out everything. I mean I don't know.
This is what happens when you have an English major that was almost a philosophy minor.
Yeah, I only had the, because we have, when you go to university here, you have like a mandatory philosophy thing that you have to do. And
Mm-hmm.
it was horrible. And I have just blocked it all out of my
So
existence.
I ended up taking my mandatory philosophy, and then I just kept taking philosophy classes. And then by the time
Why?
because it's fun, I like
Okay.
it. And then I was in the Philosophy Honors Society, which has Greek letters, and their animal is an owl, and it's amazing. And when I graduated, they're like, you qualify for a minor in philosophy, right? And I was like, what?
Wow.
So I didn't get that on my diploma because I wanted to be employable. And what the fuck do you do with a minor in philosophy? Of
I don't even know. No.
So that's why I double majored in English and communications because I wanted a job. Anyways,
Good choice though. I
thank you.
commend your choice, yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So then you also get our last one, and the one that is most tantalizing, but is also one of the most scary, which is intense violence and cruelty and aggression. Um, a lot of semeis are very prone to their tempers. Many of them have said so about their tempers. And then its unfortunate cousin, which is then usually an act of kindness or mercy, like gift giving, after an abusive moment.
Okay.
Because, you know, that makes it better, I guess.
Of course. That just, it was just an unfortunate slip and
Yes,
it was all your fault anyway. And
exactly.
look what you made me do, but I bought you a
Yes.
present.
Yes, and it's
It's
usually like
kind
a
of like
very
all of the previously mentioned ones rolled into one.
yeah.
Yeah.
You will see a lot of overlap, and very very rarely will there ever just be one. I'm including sexual aggression in this only because, honestly, that could be a whole other episode, which is just sexual assault.
Yeah. And when I was writing my notes for this episode, I was thinking, like, I don't feel like I have a lot to contribute here because I don't feel like this is the type of content that I choose to consume a lot of the time. But then I was like, it's BL. It's everywhere, and it's usually, and I, disclaimer to that, because I also like to defend BL, and BL isn't all assault and horrible things, but there is
No,
a
it's
lot of
not.
it, particularly in the older type, in the
Mm-hmm.
older types of BL, the older stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very often, the psychological abuse goes hand in hand with sexual abuse and sexual assault,
Yes,
because it's this whole, and tied together. We're going to talk more about why this happens and how
we
it
are.
happens, and
We are.
but but it's kind, and then it's kind of tied in with that whole, oh, I can't control myself because I love you so much trope, and it's a whole
Yeah, and I
horrible
definitely
hornet's nest of, of abuse.
not a hornet's nest of abuse. Our next sticker as well. Um,
Wow, you're on fire.
I know. Uh,
Yeah.
I definitely also want to bring up that this goes back to one of the early aspects of BL and yaoi and shonen ai, which is it's rooted in sojo anime and sojo manga, and sojo still has a lot of this ish too.
I have so many notes on this for later, like, you don't know. I mean, I'm so ready.
You've been you've been preparing for this, but I
I
wanted to
have,
mention that at the top because I knew we were going to get into it. I
yeah.
knew
But I mean,
I
it's an important thing to get out there because it's such a
yeah,
huge part of the whole issue.
right. It is. And I also don't want to give a pass to the West on this either, because I do love that the children love to call this stuff out in anime and manga. Not that it's wrong, but I'm going to vaguely point over to a bunch of Western shows over here that do the same shit.
I mean, can we just, for a quick moment, let's all get in our little time machine and go, like, I don't know, 10 years back in time, and
Game of Thrones?
Twilight was the
Oh.
height of romance. And I don't know about you, but personally, I don't think that, someone sneaking into my bedroom and watching me sleep, not really the epitome of romance in my book.
Considering that I just told you a story about my boyfriend sneaking into my
I was
apartment
actually
and watching me sleep. He's an ex now because he actually was emotionally abusive and did a lot of the things that I just talked about.
There you have it. Surprise.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll go ahead and get personal so I can show you guys a little bit of emotional abuse as an example. And again, do not use this to diagnose yourself or your relationships. This is anecdotal. But the biggest thing that my ex would do is that he was very manipulative about time and attention. And he knew that those were things that mattered to me a lot because I have trauma related to abandonment. Thank you, dead parents. And he knew this. He knew this about me. So he was very manipulative about that. He would disappear for weeks. He'd go on trips. He'd do anything. There were entire aspects of his life that I just didn't know about. We never went places together. He really only came over for sex. And sometimes when I would come home, there'd be a gift from one of his travels on my bed. And that was usually enough to make me not angry with him for being gone for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time, show up, essentially demand sex, and then leave again. And for a very long time, that was enough until one day it wasn't. And I realized that thing that happens to a lot of people is that if any of my friends were describing this relationship, I would beat the shit out of whoever was doing this to them. Mm-hmm. And that sort of actually someone compared him to Yuki Eri.
Oh god.
And I realized that Eri did the same thing. And I didn't like it when Eri did that. And gravitation saved me from being emotionally abused anymore.
Gravitation.
But yeah, like
yeah, no, like, but that exactly.
That's what it is. It's not, and again, I don't say that for you guys to go diagnose yourselves. I was in this relationship for a few years, and this person is out of my life. I don't speak to him anymore, and I don't particularly wish him ill because, and we'll get into this further, a lot of this stuff is stemmed in just having shitty coping skills yourself. Like, we'll talk about this more later, but I don't necessarily fault him because I don't think that he was really doing this as like an active act of sadomasochism. I think he was just a dumb man.
They exist. I mean,
frankly, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and they get like a free pass to just go around doing that thing because
it's really awful. And like, I think the one thing that I'm most shocked about is like how little was acceptable to me to be like everything is okay. Like what the bare minimum was. Like one time he left a Hello Kitty from the Johnson Space Center on my bed, and like that was enough because he knew that I liked Hello Kitty.
Yeah,
and it was in a spacesuit. And then I forgave him for being gone for like 3 weeks and not telling me.
But that's, that's the thing, because one thing that constitutes, keeping up with abuse is that, you have low self-esteem, you have low self-worth, you don't,
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't value yourself. I'm not saying that you don't, but like...
I don't. I'm in a gray sackcloth. I don't.
But you're rocking the gray sackcloth, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the thing, it's the whole thing about, you are in a vulnerable position and then you are being exploited, but you don't have the coping mechanisms, you don't have the insight, you don't necessarily know yourself well enough to know that this is happening. And that is a very, very dangerous place to be in.
It is.
When you are at the hands of someone who is that manipulative and can do all of these things to harm you, even when you don't know that you are actively being harmed.
Right, and that's also a key aspect, and I definitely want to highlight on that because you see a lot of these ukes that are, to be polite, emotionally not in a place where they can recognize.
Yeah.
I really think that we need to do a whole last episode on like the dumb uke trope because that I feel like is one of the most damaging tropes.
And
This
it's
is
so there's so much to be said about that. Like,
it's but it's so pervasive.
yeah, and it's not. I mean, we're not going to talk about it now, but it's so shocking because it's like it extends to, just, things like they don't even know about their own bodies and their own bodily functions, right? And it's like, how do you live? How? I'm so frustrated. I'm sorry. I'm fine. I
No,
am
because then we
fine.
get to have a fun conversation about autism coding.
Oh, you're just going, yeah, going in there.
Don't don't hang out on discourse spaces that the kids are in unless you have like 5 buckets of popcorn and you're ready to be very quiet because you can't say anything. You can't whistle blow that you're there. Uh,
I mean,
you have to lurk
yeah.
because if they find out that you're there, they're going to get mad at you until you get to touch grass. But if you lurk and you just hang out and you watch
What are you
them
even doing with your life? What? Why?
because it's fun.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. It's actually very, very harmful sometimes. It's actually
Why? Today, in ways you can actively self-harm on the internet,
ooh, ooh.
demonstrated by my
That's a good one.
co-host who is on that side. Yeah, okay.
That's a
I
good
can't even
one.
point.
A side.
I don't even know which side you're on.
Nothing matters. So, why is this bad as trope? And Carola agonized for a while over what I meant when I said points at both hosts.
I mean, oh my god, can we just take a quick break? There's a screaming animal, and I have to deal with him.
You may take a quick break for Screaming Animal.
Ja, så.
Carola's taking a quick break because there's a screaming cat, and I very much appreciate it. So, welcome to the Amanda interlude. Oh, Carola's back.
I have returned.
Welcome
Felt like
back.
Felt like a nice break to just kind of just let
To
it out.
readjust your brain cells.
Yeah. No, but just, you can edit that out.
Oh no,
but,
it's staying.
oh, great. No, it's just, I was trying to ignore him, but he just kept screaming louder and louder, and I was like, wait, we're going into the next section. Let's have a quick commercial break, sponsored by Sansa.
You had to let out your imprisoned UK.
Yeah, essentially. Except he's the abusive one, so it's,
He has a shark bed. I don't know what you're talking about.
he is horrible!
He's perfect.
Hello, listeners. I'm sorry that my life is so disruptive to the podcast.
It's you left for like 3 seconds to let out the cat.
Yeah.
We used to have a whole ass interludes of like actual parenting happening. You're good, friend.
Okay, good. Okay.
But I say like points vaguely at host, mostly as a joke, for the whole why is psychological trauma and abuse bad. I mean, firstly, I don't feel like I have to justify saying that abuse is bad.
No, I think you're good. Abuse is
anyone-
bad.
Anyone
do
who
it.
likes to do the whole "what doesn't kill you makes you stronger" thing, you can fuck right off. I hate that. I hate that so much.
I mean, it might not kill you, but it can set you up for a lifetime of suffering and other fun side effects.
It actually, that and he's in a better place made me agnostic. Because my dad died when I was a kid. And I heard that all the time, is he's in a better place. God wouldn't give you anything more than you couldn't handle. It's like, I'm 12.
I really see this is one of the reasons, why we are heathens in this country in the far north. Because it's like, okay, first of all,
Also, it's cold.
if there is a God, why would he give us winter 10 months of a year? I'm just asking. First of all.
So capitalists can sell you vitamin D.
I hate my life. No, okay. But yeah, exactly. I've just always wondered about that, you know, when because all of these horrible things happening to people, and then, you know, someone comes up to you and they're like, "Oh, but it happened for a reason." And I'm like, I okay, is that supposed to make me feel better about this horrible thing?
Yeah,
Or
like, I heard that so
did I
much after
deserve
my
this?
dad died. So the killer for me after my dad died, so I was 12 years old when dad died, was he's in a better place. And it's like, and I remember looking at someone's like, are you saying our house was bad?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh,
Like, that's what you're saying, is that you're saying that our house was bad, so much so that God had to yoink my dad away.
it's horrible.
That's an awful thing you're saying to anyone, yet alone an actual child.
Yeah.
Don't say that shit. So I left that point in there kind of semi-satirically because I'm not here to tell anyone that abuse is bad, because it is. Now, caveat to what Carola said earlier, we're talking about fictional characters, so we can make fun of their trauma all day and night long, and we will.
And that is also, by the way, just a quick side note, a way of coping with the series that traumatized us, because, you know, sometimes you just gotta look at some memes and pretend like you're okay, like banana fish didn't hurt you. I am fine. I am perfectly okay, thank you.
I also love that it's banana fish for you.
Listen,
I love that that's the one.
I wasn't prepared.
I love that that's the one. Not that that's a bad one, but I love that that's the one for you. I mean, are we talking like recently emotionally destroyed or like emotionally destroyed in general?
I don't even know anymore.
Because if we're talking recently emotionally destroyed, Sadaz on my...
Do not. Let's. I am. No. I mean, okay, but the most recently emotionally destroyed. I mean, again. I mean, I'm sorry. I keep turning this podcast into Bokuaka Shelf, but you know, we were catching up on Bokuaka, and you know, suddenly there's like this whole villain origin story, and I'm like, this is so sad, and I'm in pain, and this was 24 hours ago. Okay, I haven't really redeemed myself.
But they're all so much hotter now.
Yeah, but like, it was so sad.
But they're so much hotter now.
It was like Naruto level trauma. It was horrible. And I mean, if we're gonna talk about what really hurt me,
yeah, we're not gonna
go
talk.
there. It's his birthday. I don't want to talk about it.
I was waiting. I was waiting.
How long did it take before
you said it like 3 times in preparation for recording this episode? Like, that's Naruto's birthday. I was waiting.
Like, I will never forget this because it's Naruto's birthday, and then I forgot the time because I apparently can't.
So you remember the fictional character's birthday, but not the time we were recording. I'd like the record to state that you remembered the fictional character birthday.
Yes.
And not the time I told you like a month ago. That you wrote down!
That I wrote down! But apparently, that wasn't enough. Apparently I don't even know. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm such a mess.
Oh no, I got to sit and drink bourbon coffee and eat donuts.
Oh my god.
My life is so hard. So I think it's important to talk about why this trope is particularly known and seen in semeis. Not to say that ukes have not been abusive. No. I guess vaguely points at Toma.
And others. I'm sure they do. I'm trying to think of some, but I don't know.
I mean, they definitely do exist.
They do exist. I've seen them.
But we mostly see this trope in a lot of semeis, and there's a few reasons why this typically happens, and a big one is that they have experienced trauma themselves.
Yep.
Again, we're not psychologists or psychiatrists, but trauma is not an excuse to be a garbage person.
No.
But it does, and I'm using air quotes if you're a listener only, it does make sense. if all you're taught are shitty coping skills, all you're going to have are shitty coping skills. So you start to see this perpetuation of abuse when you have especially semes that were treated negatively as children or as young adults or during formative years. I'm not talking about Yukieri. Um,
No, I'm not thinking about Yuki. What are you talking about? It's not like he's not the poster child for this episode or anything, right?
I was actually thinking about Yashiro from Twittering Birds Never Fly.
Well, he's yeah.
It's just
There
Yakuza
are a lot
Yukieri.
of candidates, though.
We that could be the longest BuzzFeed listicle. There's a lot of candidates, but like, top ones that come to mind have typically had some kind of trauma or violence
Yeah.
perpetrated to them, and it does, like science has shown, when you are traumatized, you do tend to traumatize others. Mostly because you just do not know any better. Now, again, this is talking about fiction. You, as a real person, do not have an excuse to be trash to others. Go see a fucking therapist.
Yeah, because the thing about fiction is that sometimes, and I mean, because, we're coming at this from the point of view of being writers ourselves, and the thing is, you need plots. And plots aren't always, sunshine and butterflies, and sometimes you need a character to have, why are they acting this way, or what are they trying to learn about themselves, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And these things aren't necessarily positive, because if all of the stories were, if it was all good all the time, then there wouldn't be any stories.
Yeah, and I'd be bored as shit.
Yeah, and this is also why fiction can be, I mean, which we'll get into, but why fiction can be such a great way to look into these things
Mm-hmm.
in a safe and controlled manner, because you're in control as the consumer.
Absolutely. But yeah, so we're talking about this purely in the sense of fictional characters. You who may be hurting others, get ye to the therapist.
Yeah,
You
a good
mentioned plot,
therapist.
and I definitely
Yeah,
want to talk about that as well. And I have plots in quotation marks, and you can definitely tell the difference between a writer that has done this intentionally because they have a plan, and a writer who just threw in some fucking nut job because they want to.
yeah.
Um,
And
am I wrong?
no, you're not wrong. And I think about this a lot, because it's like when you look at, manga in particular, and the way, of course, I think that this is probably a lot more prevalent in series that are, like if you look at Shonen Jump, and they are producing a set number of page week on a weekly basis. I think that most BL, is produced not at that high pace. It's not, it's not being pumped out that quickly, but you're still, kind of like making up things as you go along, and you just sometimes you make a decision because it's like, I need to have 16 pages by Friday, and you're just like, okay, just let me do this thing, and then it becomes a thing that maybe doesn't age well, or doesn't, work well at all. Maybe it's just a disaster, and like, you know not not necessarily throwing in trauma for shits and giggles, but you're just like, okay, let's branch out the plot over here, and then all of a sudden you have this whole thing that you didn't necessarily think through well enough to portray it in a great way.
Absolutely. A lot of the stuff I see is just, it's a lack of research and planning, that you just sprinkle in some random sociopath because you can as a writer. And,
Yeah.
it does sometimes temporarily scratch an itch, but most of the time it's just poorly done. And it almost creates like a weird vacuum where there's no other stakes in the series. But then you have to get rid of them somehow. You have to get rid of the sociopath because they're too crazy.
I made a mistake.
Right.
How
I
do
made a mistake, and there's a horrible sociopath with his dick out. We need to get rid of him.
Okay, and so and then you'll have two choices, right? You can
Yes.
you can kill him,
Yes.
or you can redeem him,
Yes.
and those are your choices.
So then you either have to make us really, really like the sociopath for some reason, or you can kill him with a bus.
Yeah, quick and simple. It happens. I literally watched that in something very recently. It was just a bus.
Yeah. I mean, it happened in EX where Eri almost got killed by a bus.
I don't want to talk about that because it was horrible and traumatizing, and then they left us hanging, and they never published the second volume in English, and I'm gonna... Please.
It's like it happens literally in EX, or he gets weirdly psychosomatically blinded by bus.
Oh my god, it hurt me so badly.
Why is
Why?
Maki Murakami a bad writer but also a good writer at the
I
same time?
love her, and I think
I
she's
love her. I love
we
her
are going
too.
to talk about this, but
I love her too, but she's clearly insane.
I know, and that's why I love her. But also, you know, she's like one of those writers that you accept that she's insane, and
Yeah.
you know,
Or
whatever, do your thing. I don't, you know.
Or there is the Maki Murakami special when it comes to dealing with the sociopath with his dick out. Create a bigger sociopath that dicks down the sociopath.
I have this in my notes. Yes. Because, not in those words. Not in those exact
But the Maki
words.
Murakami special, where you make a bigger sociopath that dicks down the first sociopath until they stop being sociopaths.
But that is, I mean, because I was reading. Oh, I see you have it there.
I was making a pile, but yes, it's here.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing, because I was reading up on this, because when we're gonna go, I think just let me look at the thing. I mean, because somewhere in here, I'm gonna draw a lot of comparisons to shoujo manga, as you said, because there are a lot of common denominators here. But one of these things is, you know, I can't remember which article this was. I was reading some sort of article on abuse in shoujo manga, and one of the series that was brought up was Hot Gimmick. Now, I know, right? I read Hot Gimmick for the first time last year, and it was horrible. I mean, it is competing with Peach Girl for like #1 spot on my list of things that have been horrible to me.
Please stop making me feel 5,000 years old.
But we're old, and this is, I don't know. But point is, Hot Gimmick is a perfect example, because it has all of the above, and then it has the very, very classic trope, because, you know, it has the manipulation and the gaslighting and all of these things.
Of course.
But then, you know, it does two things that are also very predominant in BL. And the one thing is, again, bring out a bigger asshole. It's like, okay, so this guy is bad, but this guy is worse. And so bad guy #1 saves the protagonist from bad guy #2.
Yeah.
Thus, he must be good, or at least better. So, you know, we're supposed to root for him. But then, you know, there's that other thing where they are trying to kind of, you know, you're trying to sort of redeem the character. Because again, as you said, there's all of this trauma, and they typically have some sort of latent trauma. And then they just don't know any better. And you're sort of like, I cannot for the life of me remember what his name is, but you know, the one main guy in Hot Gimmick who's a horrible, horrible person.
Yes.
And then he's just like, you know, we're supposed to feel bad for him because he doesn't understand why she's being so cold to him. And then he's trying to use like math equations to solve this. And so it's like, you know, you'll use logic and a bigger bad guy. And that's kind of how you resolve, or, you know, how they try to resolve their own issues.
Right.
And it's a whole ass thing. And we see it in BL all the time.
Constantly. A lot of, especially like the 90s series will do that, where, you know, those are the ones that are basically just shoujo, but with dicks. They are.
Yeah.
They're shoujo manga with dicks and weird hands.
And long ass legs.
Oh my god, they're all so big. And like,
and then the tiny little square heads.
Yeah, and they just look like boxes.
I love it.
They look like baby's first drawing of like a circle on a box, and then like stick arms, but the weirdest hands. Like, it's just I don't know what anyone was doing back then. And then like chins were always weird. Chins were always like you could cut diamonds with some of the chins.
It's true.
Like it was just, what was anyone doing back in the day? What were any of us doing?
I mean, we were just being served. I don't know. We didn't have a lot of options. People didn't know. Okay,
they didn't. And every uke had the same hairstyle. Every uke looked the same.
Yeah.
And it was just very weird.
And
They
then
all
they're
look the
like,
same.
and then like the seme has the huge hands and everything, but the uke is like 90% ice.
Oh, the uke is like 80 to 90% eyes. Oh god, it's so traumatizing.
How's that trauma treating you?
I don't like it. I don't.
Oh my
Thanks, I hate.
god.
Oh, but
It
yeah,
makes
like
yeah.
it. I do kind of like the Maki Murakami special of like they can create a bigger sociopath and have them dick down the sociopath. I've done that a few times in fiction. It's quite fun. But as a reader who maybe does not have trauma, it's very scary and weird. Um, but yeah, you'll see that a lot in boys love. The last one that I think is important to hearken on is just bad writing. And I think this is the one that I remember most well, just most from the 90s and the 2000s is a lot of this stuff actually ends up being accidental. And a lot of it is just regurgitations of trope stuff from years ago that ends up bad. So, like, actually, the example that comes to mind for this for me is a private tutor, um, where you have the same, like, isolating of the uke, the whole, I think there's a sexual assault because Rintaro does the whole dumb thing of, like, oh, I was talking to one of Kaede-san's friends for his birthday, and now he thinks I'm cheating. And you have the dumbest bricks uke. Uh,
I
he
kind
is.
of love Katakyo though. I do love it.
I mean, it's good, but like, it's the. Is it
Yeah.
not exactly that?
I haven't read it in such a long time, but yeah, I think you're
Like,
probably
it's a
right.
lot of that. Like, again, like I own it. I don't hate it, but it's like that's abuse. That's abusive. Like, that's not good. Now, it's like isolated acts of abuse. I would not overall call Kaede uh abusive to Rentaro. No, but like that's just bad writing. You didn't have to do that.
No.
No one made you do that.
And yet there it is.
Yeah,
But
and yet,
but it happens all the time.
right.
And and as readers, I think that that's what I'm doing, going back to what I said about how I feel like, oh, I don't read a lot of this because I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what I actually do is that I sort of, I separate. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
be like, you know what, this never happened, and I'm just gonna focus on the good things, and then I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm just gonna ignore this because I didn't like it, and then I'm just gonna, because I know that this is
Yeah.
just tropes being, used over and over and over, and a
Mm-hmm.
recipe that is being followed, and coming out in, in a really bad way in the story, and I'm just like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what, I'm just gonna focus on this stuff
You
because
know what?
ultimately, yeah.
I can really respect that because I mean that's what it is. And if you look at old fan fiction, like fan fiction has this problem where you'll see us repeating a lot of the same language and a lot of the same tropes, especially during like the formative years for me, which were like early 2000s. Most of us were one very young and two had never seen a dick before in our lives.
That didn't stop us from writing them.
Exactly, but you can see the threads of that
Yeah.
trope that were obviously sewn by 13 and 14-year-olds who wouldn't know what a cock is in a lineup of cocks. Like, we wouldn't know what any of this stuff was or what it actually meant to, like, cum buckets or whatever. We didn't know what any of that shit meant. We read it once and kept regurgitating it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like one of those things I can't remember. I think I talked about this. It's unrelated, but it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like when I was doing one of these BL history panels. It wasn't even a
Mm-hmm.
BL history. It's the when we did the destigmatizing panel
Mm-hmm.
at FutureCon.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about this, and I think that I mentioned it somewhere in there, that one of these things that we used to do, and I think particularly because we have to remember that not only are a lot of these fandom kids and the audiences for BL, not only are a lot of them really young or were really young in the early 2000s, but a lot of them
Mm-hmm.
aren't even native English speakers. So
Mm-hmm.
you're just learning by doing what you see. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I was thinking about, because we were talking about like tagging and
Mm-hmm.
how tagging your work has changed. And
Mm-hmm.
that one of the things that we used to do, we used to have, remember the disclaimers, and we used to be like, warning, this content, this contains male homosexual. If you don't like it, don't read it. And
Yes.
if you did that now, I think that people would perceive that as you're saying that warning because homosexuality is inherently bad. But what it
Right.
meant then, it was a way to avoid getting flamed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that, you saw everyone else doing it. So you did it and you didn't, think about it critically. And then when you think about it now, it's like, why would I warn anyone that it's gay? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that would be
Right.
offensive.
Absolutely. I love that you bring that up because honestly, you know what that reminded me of was the citrus system where you have like
Yeah.
lemon, lime, and stuff like that. I couldn't tell you how far that goes back. It was just something I learned
Yeah.
and adopted and perpetuated.
Exactly.
Um, it's so God, you're brilliant. Sorry,
Thank you. But it's like, because I think we talked about this when we were
host
doing.
simping. Sorry.
No, I'll take it. No, but we were talking about it when we were doing our shipping expedition as well. That
Yes.
like how I, as a Norwegian teenager who
Mm-hmm.
was just learning by doing, and like I didn't understand because we have our own rating system, and then I'm like, why is NC-17 worse than R18?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what they're doing, so I guess that's what I'm gonna follow. Because you don't know, and you just
Mm-hmm.
perpetuate it because it's a thing. You're essentially memeing, except it's
Yeah. I
not
mean,
funny. It's
no, you're absolutely right. That was God, you're brilliant.
I'm
But
not
I
sure.
have.
I don't know.
But there's a note in here also that a lot of this, unfortunately, is just toxic masculinity, internalized misogyny,
Mm,
because it is. Um, so a lot of that sort of just regurgitation of tropes really also does come into the fact that a lot of this stuff, especially in BL, uh, AFAB or or female assigned or even female socialized people have huge problems with just because society is garbage.
yeah.
So we deal with this stuff in stride in a weird way, and it becomes perpetuated that way. A lot of it being bad writing is just sort of what we are expected to do and to know. I mean, I'm on a bit of a Disney kick because it's Halloween, and I usually cosplay a Disney villain for Halloween. And I keep thinking about like all these Disney characters that we were like supposed to look up to and stuff like that. And I'm not going to get into like the whole reductive ass conversation about like, oh, Belle has Stockholm syndrome. Ooh.
He
But
gave
like,
her a library. She's fine.
okay,
I'm
okay. If you were going to judge me being excited about a Hello Kitty, you getting a library is right up there.
I'm not judging. I'm
If
just
you're gonna
saying.
judge me and my Hello Kitty, you don't get to be all like, bitch got a library, she's fine.
I'm just saying that. Okay, so what he says is, you can live here. Don't
Yeah.
go in that one wing in this huge ass damn castle. And here's your library. I'd be fine.
Yeah, I really don't know what the conflict was there. Cause like he isn't asking or demanding sex.
No.
Like he's he's mostly chill. He's willing to learn and grow from her. Like she stands up to him a few times actually. Like I don't know why everyone's like, "Oh, she's so Stockholmy." It's like, "No,
No.
she's not." But a lot of that again, like it's taken from narratives that were about being a subversive good, as submissive good housewife. So
Yeah.
if you meet your husband and he's scary, this is how you behave. Also inspired by a story that really happened in France, in which Catherine de Medici was the worst. Do you know this one?
I think I've heard at some point. I do go on because I don't even.
Okay,
Brain
so
is trying, but it's
that's
not.
fine. So Catherine de Medici was actually one of the worst because she was, and some of her guards come to her and they say, "We found this wild man. There's a wild man in the woods." And she's like, "Pimpin', let me see him." Uh,
As one does.
as one does. So her guards bring her this wild man in a cage. He's covered from head to toe in hair. And, he looks big and strong, and you know they're trying to ask him questions, and he doesn't really understand. But they somehow manage to ask, "What is your name?" And he responds in Spanish, "My name is Pedro Gonzalez." And they're like, "Wild man, cool."
Oh, of
So
course.
yeah, so Catherine de Medici is like, "This is my wild man. There are many other wild men, but this one is mine." Strips him of his name, names him Petrus Gonzalvis by Latinizing his name.
This sounds like a remake.
No,
This sounds like when Hollywood makes, when Hollywood remakes movies
right,
from
but
other
this is
countries.
history. So
Yeah.
if you think this is crazy, it's about to get crazier. So she's like, "Okay, Petrus Gonzalvis, you're my wild man pet," and Petrus is like ballin', I guess. Um, Gives him fancy clothes, teaches him the Latin, has him in her court. I mean, he's like a joke, but like he's there. And, you know, Catherine de Medici never really goes beyond he's a wild man or a monster. So one day, Petrus is just like hanging out, and Catherine de Medici is like, "I want monster children." And he's like, "What?" It's like, "I want monster children." So she like force marries one of her ladies in waiting to Petrus Gonzalez. Um, and like she doesn't, of course, tell the lady in waiting that you're gonna fuck this hairy man. Uh,
That was how marriages worked back then. You never told anyone about the honeymoon and the wedding night.
I mean, also you kidnap two people and make them marry, I guess. Um, and then she's basically like poking at them with a stick, like, "Go fuck. I want children." That's basically what she's
I
doing.
want children, but I don't want to be the bearer of the monster
No,
children,
I
of
just want
course.
monster children. Like
Yeah.
she's literally, she's basically like poking them with a long stick, like, "Go fuck.
I was gonna
Go."
call her out for being like the original monster fucker, but I guess she wasn't actually
No,
doing
she
that.
just
No.
wanted to consume the monster fucking.
Of
Uh,
course.
so they do fuck. They actually do have a very, very nice, loving marriage because Petrus Gonzalez is just a guy. He's hairy, but he's just a guy. He's actually a very intelligent, charming human being who's just hairy. Um, and they do have a couple of monster children because it's like a gene. Catherine de Medici takes those children and sells them off to other kings and queens as tokens
Oh my god.
because she can and she is the worst. And Petrus Gonzalez and his wife just live out the rest of their days. I'm pretty sure Petrus dies first, but like of old age and like in a nice house. And then his wife dies. And that's the story of Petrus Gonzalez, which is how we got Beauty and the Beast.
Wow. No libraries, but
I mean, probably some libraries.
yeah.
But yeah, that's how Catherine de Medici was the worst, and we got Beauty and the Beast.
She really was the worst. Speaking of beasts, mine wants to be let back in, so I have to go and be a
By
slave.
all means,
I'll be back.
go get the cat. This episode sponsored by Sansa being demanding. For all of you who are curious, Sansa is Carola's cat. I do adore this cat more than anything else, but apparently he has decided today to choose violence. I have no issue with the cat choosing violence, but the cat has chosen violence on a multiplicity of occasions today. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. What are you saying while I'm not here?
I said your cat chose violence.
He wakes up every single day and chooses violence.
I think it's very charming. I love it
tired.
so much.
It's been 15 years. I'm tired.
Okay, so psychological abuse is a trope. We've talked about it. For almost an hour.
It's happening.
Yeah, we've also talked about cats a lot. But here's the question: can it be good?
After all that.
I mean, good is not the right word, but can it be intriguing?
Yeah. And I think that's the key word. Yes. It can be very intriguing. That's
Absolutely.
why and I had this, and again I have to get to my shoujo notes at some point. But but one of the initial notes that I wrote for this is that's the thing about BL, because ultimately, I mean, yeah, BL is about, hot guys getting it on and us being invested. But
This is true.
the magic about BL is that, that's kind of like, that's the umbrella term. And then within that, you have all of these genres. And then you get these stories that can be anything. And some of them can be harrowing and horrible and painful to consume, but it's kind of like watching, it's like watching a movie. And
It
sometimes
is.
it is watching a movie, because Twittering Birds is a movie, for instance.
It is a movie.
But yeah, but it's, because it's like you are invested. You want to see
You
what
are.
happens to these characters. You want to see, you might not even like. I wanted to, like, I just want to mention Killing Stalking for a second,
Ooh.
because it took me so long to actually read it, because I was like really dismissive. I remember when it came out, I was at a point in my life where I was like, I'm so tired of all of this abusive BL. Like, can we please get something that isn't? And then people started talking Killing Stalking. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. But then I did, because I'm a pushover. I don't know. Anyway, but I read it, and it's such a great story. It
really
so
is.
good. And it's like, I personally at first struggled to see it as a BL, because I felt like it's far too much over on the psychological thriller side of things. But I mean, it is categorized as a BL. But the thing is that you can consume this type of content without, you don't even have to root for the main couple. You don't have to root for them to become romantically involved, or for, for some sort of redemption arc, but you can still be invested in the story. And I think
Absolutely.
and I think that's so interesting about these types of stories.
I agree with you. I mean, like, I don't want Suichi and Yukieri together, but that's fine.
Listen, all I want is for their happiness, and they're happily married with children, and everything is fine, okay? So
Yukieri has the coping skills of a dried cum rag, and Suichi Shindo has maybe 5 brain cells on the best of days.
On the best of days. But
Sansa!
but I love them.
I mean, they're great. I also love that nowhere in there you said that I was wrong, which is...
I don't know. Maybe I'm a little, I'm trying to be diplomatic, okay? I'm trying to be nice to you. Of course you're wrong. I just didn't want to say it. I don't want to be that person.
Yes, you do.
There's literally a sticker in the shop that's like, Amanda was right. So I just kind of don't want to destroy your brand,
Oh no, please destroy it happily. That was when my host was to be diplomatic on a different level, which is perfectly fine. Who the fuck keeps emailing me? Sorry, it was an email about flowers, because I sent a person flowers exactly one time. Now I am bombarded with emails about sending flowers. I'm not a Victorian fuckboy. I don't need to send everyone flowers.
Are you sure?
I mean, I can be.
You're sure that there's not some sort of gender in there that is based on some sort of old school Victorian schoolboy from ye old shonen ai times?
I mean, I'm not going to go full like Heart of Thomas or anything. Maybe more like Lovers in the Night.
Don't talk to me about Heart of Thomas. I don't want to.
Sorry. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, if we're gonna talk like Lovers in the Night or something, I guess. Sure, there's a French dandy deep inside of me that wants to send flowers to people and then dick them down. Yeah, of course. Isn't that in everyone?
I know that a lot of people would want to have some French dandy deep inside of them, but I digress. Respectfully.
Thank you for digressing with respect. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
As opposed to without respect.
I'm a very respectful person, okay? Not respectable, but respectful.
Respect. You know what? I will co-sign on that. Yeah. So we've seen that this trope can go bad very, very easily, likely from a lot of its roots in shoujo and frankly just bad writers, because they do exist. Bad writers do exist. And I say that with love. If you like any of the series that we've mentioned or any of the mangaka that we've mentioned, we don't say that like as a unilateral bad. Obviously, like, you are entitled to like the things that you like. The only objectively wrong series is, I was going to say something, but every answer was shady and was going to get us canceled. Every answer that came to mind was like increasingly more like shady and would just result in us both being like flame ward.
You can share them with me afterwards. I'm very curious.
I think all 3 of them are ones that you like. So.
But but I mean, what is our tagline? We like to suffer. I mean, I'm not
We
even.
do we do like
I'm.
suffering. Uh,
I enjoy suffering.
I think unfortunately this kind of trope can go bad very very
Hmm.
easily. One of the big ones that I notice, and this is a bit of a hangover from the old show, but I know Carola and I have similar opinions on this, is just bad framing. Don't reward bad behavior. Like,
Yeah.
that's one thing that drives me absolutely insane in BL, especially because I know, especially having been a young reader of BL and having it be unfortunately something that framed and really influenced a lot of my sexuality and sexual experiences, because I had Catholic family that said that masturbation is why the dinosaurs don't exist. Um, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Connect. Trying to connect. It's. I was like, but the T-Rex couldn't reach. Why? How?
So there's actually a lot of scientists that like talking about stuff like that. And there are theories that like some of the depressions that we found fossils of were just places where dinosaurs rubbed themselves against.
Oh my god. Yeah. No.
Because science. Science.
Science
But,
is. Yep.
but yeah, like I remember like a lot of this like negative relationship stuff really rubbing off on me when I was younger, because I was one of those Americans that read this stuff too young and without any proper framing. Honestly, it was less BL. I think the most harmful series was probably like Inuyasha. Inuyasha was very bad for relationships.
I have zero relationship with Inuyasha.
It is the series that made me a fangirl. Like, I had watched anime before Inuyasha, but Inuyasha is what got me like writing fanfic, having ships, like really making OCs and stuff like that. I think it was one of the first manga that like I actively collected. It was one of the first series like I was staying up late to watch it. Like, Inuyasha was the series that like birthed little fan Amanda. Like, and I think it's bad. Like, it's a bad anime. Like, Rumiko Takahashi is not a great writer. I can acknowledge that now. But like, if you want to like see the roots of like modern fan Amanda, it's in Inuyasha. And like, when I start talking about like boys that I like male characters that I like, you can start seeing a very clear through line that starts with Shishomaru and Naraku and ends with like Aizen.
I mean, not being familiar with the Inuyasha characters, I can't
Yeah.
really follow the trajectory that well. But then Aizen, I'm like, okay, I
Oh,
see where you're going.
there's like 3 or 4 characters that I will actively reference as Lord and or Master, and Aizen is on that list. It's always Lord Aizen.
I have I have never I oh my god, no. I can't. I cannot. But it's, but again, and I think, I don't know, I can just I'm so disorganized. I had some notes on this. But it's, because of the whole shoujo thing, right?
It is.
And 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 again, this is my favorite thing to bring up in every conversation we're having, but context, right?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
you gotta look at, first of all, the context of, BL as a subgenre or as an evolution of shoujo, but also at, the Japanese society. And if you look at Japan today, they're not great at dealing with, any kind of like abuse or
Yeah.
mental illnesses or struggles. Like, it's not really a huge conversation there. And so obviously if you start going back to, the 90s and the 80s, and and see all of these, like, how are they supposed to portray these things in a healthy or responsible way when they don't have the language to do so, they don't have the knowledge, and like the mangaka, they're making comics, they're not sitting around reading medical journals, it's there's all of this context that goes into the quote unquote like bad writing and bad ways of handling the themes, but then also again with the shoujo. And I thought I was trying to make sense of this. It was like, putting together pieces from like articles that I've read on this. But there's like, first of all, there's an article from the early 2000s by Rachel Thorne where she mentions that in the 90s, people were sort of getting fed up with, the tragedy, because shoujo and BL are both very much built on tragedy and sad things and horrible things. And so in the 90s, people, and I put this in my notes, as in the 90s, people were hurt by banana fish and they wanted something to be happy about. So they started to want happier, like, happy endings. But at the same time, the publishers are kind of moving away from the pre-adolescent audience and kind of going deeper and wanting more violence and more sex. And this goes into both BL and shoujo. Like, I'm obviously paraphrasing this, but what I think is very interesting is that a lot of scholars have looked at BL in the extension of feminism and shoujo and looking at how we as women consumers and creators are putting ourselves in the shoes of the male characters, particularly the uke character, sexuality and all that. And there is this very interesting idea that in shoujo, that there's, the trope of the cross-dressing female, the cross-dressing woman who dresses as a guy, or rejects her femininity until she falls in love. And that's when she accepts her femininity and accepts her sexuality. And I feel like we are seeing the same thing in BL, because, there's so much, like you said, inherent, there's misogyny and homophobia and the patriarchy, looming at every corner. And so that's where you get that kind of the shameful sexuality, or and also where you redeem the person who does you wrong because he doesn't know any better, because he's also tied down by all of this context, all of these these factors like inherent like toxic masculinity and inherent homophobia and all of these things. Not inherent, that's not the word, but you know what I mean. And
I do.
And so you see, I think that's also, completely making a mess of what I was trying to get at here. But but the point is that you have these, you follow the same threads throughout both genres. And so that redemption, of the, you need the trauma in order for the romance to make sense. And then you get that happy ending, but you just have to waddle through all that crap first and all of that.
Yeah, and you definitely see a lot of that in the 90s and 2000s BL. Yeah. Excellent points made. I'm trying not to simp too hard.
I was trying to make sense of it, because I didn't look at my notes.
I'm trying very hard not to simp too aggressively. But excellent points made all around. But yeah, like, you see a lot of that in like the early 90s that, it's a light trauma before you guys can have true happiness. Honestly, Gravitation comes to mind a lot for that.
Yeah.
Is that you get over this hump of what is Aries' insurmountable mountain of bullshit, which Toma had nothing to do with.
No. Toma was a saint.
Yes.
Absolutely.
He rescued him.
Yeah. I'm just like, no.
I love that tiny man so much. But you have to get through this insurmountable mountain of Aries, just utter emotional baggage. And then once you're on the other side of that, in theory, you get to go live a happy married life. But one, that's a very, very narrow reading of trauma, and two, it's not how things work. Like, you don't just one day put your trauma in a box and mail it away. If that was the case,
I wish.
I'd love it. Please, would have done that probably around 2010. Would have unburdened myself of trauma many a year ago.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened yet. Another aspect, honestly, is no consequences. And I know I've mentioned this in the old show, but I want to mention it again. When I say framing and consequences, I don't think that every seme needs to be in jail. Like, there doesn't need to be, like, yaoi court. There doesn't need to be, like, that doesn't need to be the consequence all the time.
I think therapy would be a nice
Therapy would be
thing.
nicer, honestly, and this might be my low standards. Just acknowledging that the thing was bad. That's one of the biggest things that just completely turns me off on a series that's like claiming to be psychological or something. And even the ones that don't, where there's just no acknowledgement that what happened was bad. That kills me, honestly, is when this poor virginal uke is like straight up sexually assaulted or something because of a dumb misunderstanding because of seme angst issues, and the uke just rolls over and forgives him like nothing happened. There has to be some acknowledgement that what happened was bad. Now, like I said, do I think that there needs to be like a yaoi jail? No, I don't think that that's the answer. But there has to be some admittance that what happened was not acceptable, even if it doesn't do anything. Like, honestly, the example that comes to mind for me with that is Maiden Rose. Klaus does assault Taki more than once, and Taki has made it very, very clear that that was bad. That doesn't mean that it stops happening.
No, but
But there is an acknowledgement that what is happening is bad and not good. Even if it's just doing little things like taking down the amount of moaning in the OVA, where the OVA boosts up a lot of the no, no, no rather than the moaning part, which I actually appreciate because it is a whole ass crime. And the no, no, yes part of BL that is unfortunately a terrible leech from Sojo and hetero hentai. Ugh, I hate it. Hate it so much.
And I don't understand. I keep saying this, but it's like there is so much good BL out there where everyone
really
is, you know, just enthusiastically consenting very loudly. And then everyone who's making the animated series are just like, there's a lot of no in this one. Let's go with this one. Let's give this one an animation. And I'm like,
there's a lot of no in here. Let's play it up as a joke.
Yeah.
It's like, no, please don't do that.
And it's like, it's so, because one of the things that, you know, it's very frustrating because one of the things that I also wrote down is that a lot of the connection, and again, you know, BL and shoujo, same thing, that you have this, but perhaps especially because, you know, in BL, women are allowed to express themselves fully without it being threatening because it's not a woman, it's a man. And so
yes.
a lot of these articles are, you know, pointing out that it has been interpreted or can be interpreted for a lot of people, again, because everyone has a different reading experience, but for a lot of people it can be like as a way of dealing with their own psychological issues.
Absolutely.
and their own trauma.
Absolutely.
By creating and by and making, but then and I think that that's a great thing, and I don't think that all fiction necessarily needs to have redemption or like everything turns out well in the end, but I think that, like you said, that acknowledgement that this was bad, like, okay, great, so now we've experienced all of the bad through the uke, and we have seen why the seme does what he does. So in a way, you're kind of consuming the psychological trauma on both hands,
right?
But then there's no good end game. You know, it doesn't wrap itself up in a good way. Like even just an acknowledgement, or even just you know, I'm not saying that because obviously trauma can't be fixed in a day, but like just,
oh man, if it was.
Sign us up, you know, sign.
Yeah, please.
Not that I have a lot of personal trauma, but I don't though. Like,
no, that wasn't me. I have too much.
Okay.
Oof.
As long as you count out all of the fiction that has hurt me over the course of my life, I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. But,
okay. Yeah, that helps, I guess. But yeah,
actually, that just underlines the point, really. But yeah, because it's like it's taking responsibility, and not only, you know, the characters taking responsibility for their actions, but, you know, it would be nice and again, I'm not saying that every author needs to take responsibility. I am not going to be held accountable for what my boys are doing because they're idiots, and I have washed my hands of these sins. This is not my problem.
Is that how
But
writing works? Okay.
exactly. But it's nice if and again, there is a context. I do understand that
Mm,
everyone didn't necessarily know everything or doesn't know
mm,
everything about the content that they are writing. But
mm,
for the writer to do enough research to sort of like tie up the ends in a
mm,
satisfying way that also benefits the reader, benefits the characters. Not necessarily every single time, but it would just be nice to see more of it, and not just oh, he is less abusive now, so now we can go on living a happy life together, even though he literally locked me in a room and called me a toilet every day of my life.
Yeah, actually, there was a series that I remember reading about that, where like a character ends up like getting like one of the like the boyfriend is concerned that his partner will cheat, so he just like locks him in a room and it's like no one can look at you, and it's like oh it's okay, he's just jealous and he loves me, so it's all right that he does this, and it's like that's a crime.
Yeah, that
That's and it was like supposed to be cute, like that was supposed to be like the good ending, and it's like that's not. No,
no, exactly.
no. And like, there's a part of me that does almost want to get a little bit more realistic with it because, again, like I was one of those youths that was affected negatively by having like every sexual encounter that I read about basically be rape. Like, there is a part of me that almost wants to get a little bit more realistic about it, but also like you're right that
But
that
it's a balance, It's hard
yes,
to balance those.
it is very hard to balance those. It's very, very hard to balance that desire, but also like I fully acknowledge that I was too young to be reading this stuff that's clearly marked as 18 plus. I fully acknowledge that I was in a society and still am in a society that treats female sexuality like it is a dirty thing for dirty bad women. I mean, I live in Texas for fuck's sake, where our current governor has decided that if he gets rid of abortions, he can solve rape.
I
That's what he said.
I'd like to see how that's going to play out. I mean,
Uh, checks notes. Not great so far. It's basically created almost like abortion tourism to other states
yeah, that's one of those words, that
that I never thought that I'd have to say in my life. Fuck you, Greg Abbott. I don't care who's listening. Oh,
I don't think he's listening.
I wish he would.
Maybe he should.
My goal is I want to break Texas's obscenity law that says if you own 6 or more dildos, you break the obscenity law.
What is Texas? What? It's
We
like
have an
counts on
obscenity
hand.
law.
No.
Yeah. It's like I'm under. It's like shit. I'm still under. And I want to do like a dramatic. Like, did you ever watch like that bad Suicide Squad movie with Jared Leto?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah. So where like he's surrounded by knives. I'm gonna do that with dildos. I want to do that
God.
and like airdrop it to Craig Abbott.
That would be beautiful.
I would love to do that. I just need like just like a bucolic field and like an army of dildos. I don't know what I.
Set up like a donation. Yaoi create donation. Send Amanda a dildo today.
I don't. I don't think I want to do that because I don't want to. I'm gonna ruin my dishwasher just throwing dildos.
Disregard. No.
Also, I can't wait though for that maintenance claim. Clogged
Oh.
dishwasher with dildos. Please send help.
Don't do that. Just don't. No.
The dishwasher's so much easier than having like a sink pan full of dicks.
I don't think you're supposed to wash them in
You can wash some, not all, but
some,
there are
not
some.
all.
Yeah, don't just go throwing random things in the dishwasher. But there are some that are very, very easily cleaned in the dishwasher. So you avoid the sink basin of dicks.
Just the mental imagery is amazing.
Another sink.
No, but
Going to work.
that's what the laundry room or like the washing room in the same jail apartment looks like, It's like there's one room within prison Uke, and then there's one room and there's just like a sink.
I would pay. I've said this on the old show, and I mean it. I would pay cash money for just like a beautiful, frank discussion about consent what is okay and what is not okay, a thorough going in to like prepping, including lube and or gloves. I would love periodic check-ins to make sure that the partner is okay, and then a prompt washing and cleaning of orifices and sheets. If I could get those things in one series, I would just like promptly just like die like an angel and like ascend into yaoi heaven.
I think that you might, have to live a while longer.
Yeah, I know I'm never gonna get that because the amount of ukes that just lay in soiled sheets with cum dripping out of their ass drives me absolutely insane. Like, you are messing everything up. Stop it.
But it's okay because the yaoi bed, it's so big he can just roll over. He'll just roll over to the next portion of the bed. It's fine.
I don't like that at all.
And then when he runs out of bed, they can wash the sheets. Also,
this like laminated, crusty ass duvet. I don't like.
But see, this raises another question. Where are they getting these sheets? They're so big.
Is there just like some very, very okay? I'm gonna talk about literature for a very, very brief moment. In Jane Eyre, there's a part where Mr. Rochester dresses like a ethnic term for Romani person that I'm not going to use on this show, and he has to like have that outfit made for him. But no one talks about that process of like a rich man saying, "I need you to dress me up like this," and I'm imagining it's like Mrs. Doubtfire, and there's like a montage of like him getting in drag. Is there just like a sad seamstress somewhere who's making like triple wide sheets for yaoi beds?
It's an uke sweatshop. It's just all the entrapped ukes are let out of the house for 2 hours, and then they have to sew the sheets.
It's Squid Game for ukes.
I feel like I've unlocked something.
You have, and I don't like it.
I don't.
Is that why it happens? Is that we?
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Like, you have it, I don't like it. I'm very concerned. Somehow I'm more concerned about this sweatshop full of ukes. Another aspect about it, about psychological abuse as a trope that can go bad, as long as it's like uneven stakes. One of the big things is that, like, it does tend to unilaterally fall on one partner, which is just awful. At least, I mean, it's not really a comfort, but if you have at least it rooted in the seme is also hella traumatized, it's not better, but it has a different, I guess, mouthfeel. But when it's just like one horrible asshole of a seme just raining hell on just the most virginal sweet uke, it's really just sad and unfair, and it's really, really hard to relate to. I mean, I say that I've trauma bonded with the worst of fictional characters. It's hard for people that with normal attachment styles to really sink their teeth in either way. Because at that point, the uke is a lamp, a virgin lamp, and the seme is just like a twirly mustache cartoon villain. Is he not?
No, I mean, you're not wrong.
Which, I mean, more transparently evil semes, they're very entertaining.
But
they are.
I know.
They
it's
are.
like, I mean, I always feel so bad when, I mean, because it's good to have conversations about this, and it's really good to shed some light on these tropes and why they are, what is not great and why they are sometimes not very well executed. Like, it could be better. But then I'm like, because I'm such, because I'm always like trying to defend BL and being like, it's, it's fiction and you got, and then I'm like, I don't want to be moralistic about it. But then at the same time, it's a balance. You can want better criteria for the ukes while
absolutely
acknowledging.
And I don't think that you have to, I think that I don't think it should be too much of a stretch to want both. Because, I mean, same. Like, I very much find myself defending BL while also being one of the first people to say it has damaged me. Like, without being hyperbolic, yeah, it has damaged me. It's hard to have relationships, especially when I was younger, when the only aspects of romance that I'd ever really consumed were puritanical Western rapey shit and misogynistic Asian rapey shit. It's hard to have relationships when, it's like, oh, there's two wolves inside you. Both of them are horrible. Both wolves are bad. Both wolves are very, very bad. So same. I can say in the same breath, BL has damaged my life and BL has changed and saved my life.
Yeah.
I can say both of those things.
Those things can coexist. And I mean,
yeah.
it's, because, it isn't black and white. And I think that is, bringing it back to the whole discussion of how kids today, to channel my old woman self, that kids today, everything is a lot more black and white for them. There's a lot more like, oh, this is problematic, don't consume it, this is problematic, don't interact with it. But it isn't that black and white. Like there are shades to everything, and there's like a plethora of different stories that go, and elements that go into these stories, and it is, like we said, perfectly possible to both consume them and be critical at the same time.
100%. 100%. And I also do want to mention a point that was highlighted at the top of the show, which is, speaking as someone who has a fair amount of trauma, BL can be a remarkable place to feel catharsis. I struggle to think of any American novel that has made me feel the way some BL manga have made me feel. I don't think that they exist. I don't think I've ever read a novel, or I haven't in a very long time, that has made me feel seen in the way that some BL manga has. I mean, Gravitation, obviously, Twittering Birds Never Fly. There are these series that just have made me feel so remarkably seen, usually because they're about horrible broken men, and I am also a horrible broken man. But, I don't get representation like that in comic books or anything like that. I always said that the character that always made me feel most represented when I was younger was Edward Elric. Like, it wasn't, a Western TV show. It was Edward Elric that always made me feel the most represented as a kid. So I can say that while I do want more and I would love to see better framing and better writing in this stuff, I can also say that I have felt remarkably powerful exacting violence on characters as a part of better coping skills. Writing fan fiction should not be your only therapeutic outlet, but it is nice sometimes.
Yeah. And it's like, you're allowed to do that. Like, there is no, I mean, I don't want to say like there is no right or wrong way of healing. Like, obviously some coping mechanisms and some ways of healing are better and more healthy than others.
Yes.
But, if you feel like you, and again, we're not doctors, like,
we are not,
and one size does not fit all, even if this is yaoi, but you, if you can get some sort of catharsis, or some sort of anything really, like coping or control or anything from writing or reading or drawing this type of material, then good for you. Like, it again shouldn't be your only form of coping, but it can be so meaningful to have characters and have stories that you can identify with and that you can understand, and sometimes you'll have people, and people will watch or read the same thing and they'll have wildly different opinions and wildly different ways of how they feel about it. But a lot of the time that is also because we have experienced so many different things in our lives, and for what sometimes someone would be like, this type of content is horrible, I wish they wouldn't make it. But for someone else, this is exactly what they need in order to understand that, hey, look, or to identify and to say that this is how I'm feeling, and understand those characters in a different way. And I've heard people, I mean, you're saying it right now, but I've heard people
Yeah.
say that, this thing was horrible, but it helped me because I could see myself in this character.
Right.
Which,
No, I do that all the time. Like,
yeah.
I know people that do that all the time, where it's like, this character is garbage, but why is he also me? Oh! Honestly, most of the people I know watching My Hero Academia is, why is this character trash? I love him.
I mean, this is literally me every day, and
honestly,
it was me yesterday.
Honestly, me looking at Dobby, it's like, this character is garbage. Why do I love him so much?
Because he's gorgeous.
He really has no. He's not. He looks like bacon that has been left in a pan for too long.
I love bacon. Okay.
I also love bacon.
Leave me alone. No. Okay, and then I don't know, and then like in one of the episodes we saw yesterday, there's this one scene. It's like, it's just for like a split second, but like Dobby comes out and he just kind of steps forward and he's like in these leather boots, and I mean, I was like, more respect to the Dobby stands, okay? I get you.
Yeah. Hello. Hi. I lead the current front. Dobby is so weird because I look at him and I know objectively this is a horribly disfigured man. But I've never wanted a character to fuck another character so much.
But who do you want him with, though?
Oh, Hawks, easily.
I
am Dobby Hawks supremacy.
Hawks is gorgeous.
He's also gorgeous.
I was like, when people started, talking about Hawks, I was like, have I seen Hawks? I don't remember Hawks. And then he was introduced in the series.
And I was like, yes, there he is.
Okay.
Like, yes.
I see.
That's honestly, that's a good way to describe it, because I feel like a lot of people did that, where it's like, what the fuck? Why is everyone talking about this? And like, he just like floats down, and it's like, yes, that's it.
I understand.
I now understand.
But I do like, again, since we're talking about Dobby, I like that too, because, honestly, we're so focused on, that character is so hot and that character is hot. But like what you're saying, he's disfigured. And finally, who's to say you can't be stitched together and like there's like staples on your face and you can't be super sexy? Honestly.
Also, I feel like, so I've had this issue with like some modern anime and manga that like, I feel like these characters are ripped from like my notebooks. Like I had that with Victor a little bit, where like when he gets really excited, his mouth turns into a heart, and it's like, who has been stealing my notebooks? And I look at Dobby, and it's like, you are everything I ever wanted when I was working at Hot Topic. You have painted nails. You literally cry blood. Like, you are everything that like 15, 16-year-old me would have fucked to death. And now I'm here as like a much more damaged 30-something. And it's like, you were made for me.
Yeah.
And I almost hate you for it. Like, you like that fucking shriveled ass scab man was the reason I got into My Hero Academia.
Don't talk about your husband like that.
I don't want to marry him. I want him to marry Hawks.
Okay.
I don't want him.
Husband like that.
Yeah, don't talk to Keiko's husband that way. Yeah, that's also the weird thing. And we're going to have a whole ass conversation about like pro and anti-ship. I have found increasingly that my relationship to shipping has changed. I don't want to fuck Dobby. I want to watch Dobby fuck a lot of other people.
But this has been my approach, what the hell? This has been my approach ever since the beginning. I've never wanted to screw any of these characters. I don't want them anywhere near me. I just want to watch them get it on with.
I have definitely wanted to fuck some of these characters in the past.
I have never. I've just like.
I respect that. I was once a horny little goblin.
But you're right. That's allowed,
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I accept your horniness,
Yeah, it's just... I don't anymore, but like, there was definitely like, if I always say this, if My Hero replaced Naruto, like if Naruto didn't exist but My Hero came out, oh yeah, that'd be like OC heaven. I'd have 5,000 OCs to ship with all of the characters. Dobby'd be straight in Pound Town. He'd be absolutely at the Pound Town station. He'd be at the Sloot station. But But I'm not there anymore. So I just want him to fuck a bunch of other people, and I want to watch.
But that's such a great place to be in. Like, the only times I feel there's like a handful of characters that I feel that way ish about. But again, I don't want to be with them. But I might actually want to be them.
Yeah, I do still get the occasional
Yeah.
I want to steal your gender. Though I am very concerned about some of the men recently that I've wanted to steal their gender. Points in the direction of overhaul. I'm increasingly concerned about the men that I would like to steal gender from. I did not think I wanted to be overhaul. I think increasingly I want to be overhaul.
It happens.
I don't know how it happens. I mean, he's also very abusive. So
See, because you have a type. That's what I've been saying.
I don't. Who is shocked? Who's among you is surprised that out of all of the horrible people in My Hero Academia, I want Endeavor to throw me into a headboard. I love Overhaul more than anything. I want Dobby and Hawks to fuck aggressively. But like my cinnamon roll is Mr. Compress.
Do I need to tell you who my cinnamon roll is?
I know who it is.
Are you sure?
It's not your child.
When he's like coming up on the Yaoi Shelf's Twitter feed, because I
have seen so much Tamaki.
I love him.
I have seen it's so weird now because I know I've seen so much Tamaki, and I'll see stuff of him, and just in the back of my mind, I'm like, God damn it.
See? And the thing about him, by the way, is that I think, because he is a literal cinnamon roll. Because Tamaki is what he eats. So if he ate a cinnamon roll, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about this since last Christmas, because I was cosplaying him, but I was eating cinnamon rolls, and I was like, would he turn into one? Like, anyway.
For those of you who are just listening, the look in my eyes, I'm hoping, is one of contempt, but also great adoration. Because this is what I love and hate about Fujin and Fujin culture, is that we have ascribed an unholy amount of research to the dumbest of things. I think if Fujin actually did, like, touch grass, like the children say, we could solve cancer. Like, we could...
Are you saying I'm not putting my abilities to good use here?
I mean, I think you are, but I'm just saying. When I think about... I just did this for roleplay. I spent like an hour geographically mapping because my partner had mentioned a physical lake. So I'm trying to place a fictional location next to a physical thing that still makes sense within the geography of the narrative that we wrote. We put in work, but it's stupid.
I know!
We put in
no, but
so
I was doing the same thing earlier, and I was like, okay, but technically this is research because I'm a writer and I have books and I'm trying to do things but it's stupid.
Like, okay, I'll tell you the one that I'm the most least proud of. I did a fanfic that was almost like a fix-it for Hitalia, because I've never been able to reconcile that France's birthday is on Bastille Day. I've never been able to reconcile that. I'm a huge Francophile, not just because I love France, the character. I've always been a huge Francophile. I've never been able to reconcile why you'd have France's birthday on one of the bloodiest days in French history. So I wrote a fix-it fiction because I can. I spent so many minutes looking at actual maps, like French maps, and translating them so I could see where the Bastille is, because I have a line in there that France was able to walk from his house to the Bastille, which means I had to place his house somewhere where he can see the Seine, the Bastille, and pass by Notre Dame de Paris. Because I'm not just going to say some shit and it not add up, which means I had to place his home somewhere that can back up what I just said, and I was able to.
But that's what I'm saying.
But I'm sure no one cares. I'm sure anyone who has read that fic does not care, did not notice. It matters to no one, but it matters to me.
And you know about it. But that's the thing, and this is why fan culture is so amazing, because we have our powers are tremendous and terrifying.
Yes.
But
Yes.
and it's kind of admirable how passionate we are about these things
Yes.
to a frightening degree.
That is the best way to put it. Like, this is the same person who got violently angry at a magical prostate in a trans man.
Oh, there we go.
Don't give them magical prostates. Don't give them magic prostates. That's not how trans people work. Speaking of not how trans people work, do you want to tell the audience what we're talking about next month?
Can anyone guess? It's not like we've talked about it literally. I mean, I've been on 2 episodes and 1 live, but I mean, we've talked about it incessantly, and it is finally time. We are going to cover gravitation.
We
And
are.
I am so excited. We're gonna fight each other.
We are, because we both. This is what I love about having Carola here, is that, you know, I say this and I don't mean to sound as snobby as it comes off, but I don't think that there's anyone else that I think is my equal in this space, but I think Carola is. I don't think that there's anyone else alive that is. Let me. Right now, it's this gif of the giraffe and the otters that's "Let me love you." It's that. I don't think that I have any equals in this space outside of Carola. I don't think that I know anyone else that I feel like is an actual, like, can step to me about this show. And because of that, we have different opinions. And I'm very excited about it. And I'm so excited to talk, like, headcanons and everything. I'm floating.
Listen,
so
I don't have
stoked.
any. I don't have any headcanons. Okay, spoiler alert. There is one canon, and the only thing I care about, and I am going to die on this hill. I love them.
And I will fight you every step of the way. It's gonna be like fucking Paradise Lost. And I will...
Place your bets, because have I ever mentioned that my favorite movie is Battle Royale? Because I'm ready. I'm gonna.
My favorite movie is something by Quentin Tarantino. I've been training for this my whole life.
Okay,
I'm ready. So place your bets on the post survives, because apparently this is to death.
And I love it because it's like we're gonna cover one of the silliest,
one of the dumbest fucking series,
and we're just like I'm not, because it's like what I said in the first episode. You know, it took me a while to realize what this manga means to me and how much I love it, and now I'm like, I will fight to the death, and I love it so much, and I take it so seriously.
I know. I think the worst part is that because we're both so storied with this, is that I don't think, even if we don't agree, we also get to do that fun thing that old Fujins did, which is you have to give credit. Like, even if we don't agree, you have to give credit for, like, I see how you reached this wrong opinion. I don't like it, but I have to acknowledge that you put in a lot of work into this wrong opinion.
I think that at some point, I was about to say next week, but at some point next time, there's going to be, you know, I'm going to be like, yeah, I value your wrong opinion. And I know exactly when it's going to
square up. Like, oh my god, like it's 100% gonna be like those like old like shipping wars that we used to have back in the old days, where it's like, I can see how you've reached this wrong opinion. I respect it, however I do disagree. Just like the most passive aggressive. Man, we were great back in the old days. I would love to go back to it, but the kids are too delicate now. You're attacking them.
LiveJournal is dead.
Oh yeah, that too.
And I'm sad.
I'm not sad about it. I think that was just nothing but viruses.
I loved LiveJournal.
I mean, it was great. Can we bring back Zenga? Zenga's the one I'd love to resurrect.
Oh my god. I didn't know anyone who did Zenga except for me.
I did Zenga. I did Zenga and Quizilla.
I never did Quizilla.
I was one of those people that found the pornography workaround to Quizilla.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was one of those founders that did all the porn on Quizilla. Another episode, storied history and old Fujin shit. But
oh my god, and then we have to talk about those. You know, remember those tests we used to take? The what kind of uke, what kind of seme are you?
Oh my god.
I love
I've already
those.
said that I want to do an episode on that, but yeah, we can. Oof. Okay.
Oh my god, we've talked for so long.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I like you and I enjoy having
No, I love
spirited
it.
conversations with you.
I mean, am I not the person who made the live stream drag on for 3 hours last time? Because, like,
Because I was trying to be considerate. I was like, okay, let's wrap this up. I don't want her first one to be so long. And you're like, I can keep going. And it's like, okay. I mean, I had a great time. I was trying to be considerate of you because a peek behind the curtain. Carola is the one who's usually very concerned about time, which I totally respect, and I don't say that to make fun of her. But it's like, okay, trying to be mindful of time. We don't want to go too long. It's like, we'll wrap things up. And she's like, I can keep going. It's like, okay. And then 2 more hours later.
but it was a great hour.
It was,
Like,
no, it was fantastic. No part
There
of me
were
is
some
angry.
wonderful dragons and everything.
There was one wonderful dragon who fucked a character to death and then fucked him back to eternal life.
Oh my god.
There was one character that did some dragon fucking and then some eternal life by dragon fucking. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch our last live.
Go watch the live. Also, we're doing a live again in 2 weeks.
Yes.
The 24th?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That will also be on Twitter. You can find us all over the internet at the Yaoi Shelf, and I say all over, really just Twitter and YouTube. We don't do other social medias because Amanda is busy. That's the only because Amanda is busy. If you
That's
like,
valid. You're valid.
thank you. I don't have. I look at the Love Cast. Shout out to the Love Cast and another Norwegian Fujin. The work they put into some of their social and getting their guests, y'all, like, fuck. Like, I can't even be jealous because, like, I know how much effort they put into it. Like, jealousy feels like a wrong emotion because that feels like it's somehow unearned. Like, nah, they put in work, and I
don't have the only thing though I would consider putting my everything into, and I don't have a lot, but my everything. Yes. If we could get Murakami, this is my dream. I've been on this podcast for 1 month and I'm like,
she's been on this podcast for 1 month and wants to go dig Maki Murakami out of whatever bunker she's dug herself into.
Can you imagine though? You'd love it.
I think I'd just die. I think you'd love it and I would just be dead in a corner frothing at the mouth. I do hope that we can get some fun guests soon. They're vague Amanda working in the background noises.
I really appreciate your hard work. Spoiler, I do nothing. I just show up.
You do some things.
No.
Appreciating me is a thing.
Yeah.
And you show me Sansa, which is amazing. So, those are the places that you can find us. If you would like to monetarily support the show, you may do so at anchor.fm/the Yaoi Shelf. Your financial support is not mandatory. I do my best to be able to afford all of this and still feed myself, as you can see by all of the weight here. What?
No.
Okay. But if you'd like to, we do accept listener support and it is greatly appreciated. We're working on some other stuff. We had briefly thrown out a conversation about Patreon. Let us know how you guys feel about that. I don't want to roll anything out. I say I mean we. That's the side that you're on.
No, wait, where? Oh, that's how it works. I got it! 2 hours later. That's where you are. Oh my god. No.
That's how cameras work.
For all this brilliance you're accrediting me to, like, there's a lot of stupid. But then again,
I'm gonna put one more coin in the Carola is Suichi jar. Just one more coin. Just
me and my 5 brain cells vibing over here.
And me and just constant blonde existential terror.
Dream team. I am very excited. It's gonna be great. I
am too. So we look forward to seeing you guys live at the end of the month. Thank you for listening.
Thank
As
you.
always, just hang out. Uh, it's not exactly the lightest of topics, but I think we handled it well. I'm very proud of you. I think you're amazing. Now that we've learned how cameras work, there's definitely going to be more pointing now that we've learned how cameras
Do
work.
you think I'm gonna remember this in 2 weeks?
I'm going to go ahead and say no, but I really want you to.
Yeah, I'm gonna rehearse.
Okay, but that's honestly the cutest thing I can imagine is you just violently rehearsing which way cameras go. Uh, we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you so
Bye.
much for listening. Bye.